The apocalypse arrived, and my system only gives me one kind of infinite supply each day. Day 1, bottled water. Day 2, 9mm bullets. My teammates laughed at me for not even having a gun, saying I was just a walking warehouse. Until the zombie horde breached the city, I loaded a belt into the heavy machine gun behind me and said softly, "Just now, who said I was useless?" I was thrown into a zombie apocalypse, yet what I awakened was an infinite bottled water system. Everyone else started with god-tier powers. Even the worst got enhanced strength. And me? Lying in my backpack was a bottle of Nongfu Spring, with a glaring infinity symbol in the lower right corner. I kept pulling out bottles of water one after another. Soon, 500 milliliters bottles covered the entire supermarket office, while the icon in my backpack didn't budge at all. Well, at least I won't die of thirst. I opened the trading platform, and it was full of supplies listed by survivors. Bread, compressed biscuits, lighters. Without exception, every trade condition had the same 2 words written on it: water. Human nature is this realistic. In the face of life and death, the things that are usually worth the least become hard currency instead. In one go, I snapped up every order trading for water. User 10086 purchased bread times 5. User 10086 purchased loasafen times 2. User 10086 purchased spaghetti times 3. The chat channel instantly exploded. Holy shit. Who the hell is this 10,086? 1. Person bought up all my supplies. Must be a game shill, deliberately draining our resources. I couldn't be bothered to respond. A shill? Shill my ass. I just got lucky and drew a hand that looked like the worst, but was actually invincible. After eating and drinking my fill, I kept browsing the trading platform, hoping to find weapons. I searched through every listing, but no one was even offering a baseball bat. Thinking about it, that made sense. Whoever found something to defend themselves within a pile of zombies would be willing to trade it away. Just as I was worrying about it, hurried knocking suddenly came from downstairs. Is anyone there? Open up. Zombies are chasing me. I peeked through the crack in the door. It was a woman. The kind of beautiful that made me freeze for 2 seconds. A perfect face, and though her figure was hidden under clothes that looked a bit bedraggled, the outline didn't lie. Who are you? Hey, handsome. I've been running around outside all day and have no supplies at all. Let me in first. I'll gladly do anything for you. Her voice carried a sob, and her eyes were red. I was silent for a few seconds, then used a wooden board to pry open the deformed automatic door and let her in. She had just breathed a sigh of relief and hadn't even finished saying thank you before I chopped the back of her neck with my hand. She crumpled softly to the floor. I rummaged through my backpack for the rope I'd gotten earlier from opening a wooden crate, tied her up tight, and dragged her to the 2nd floor. In the apocalypse, the least valuable thing is sympathy, and the most valuable is caution. When she woke up, she found that she'd already been wrapped up like a zongzi. What are you trying to do? Do you know this is illegal? She shouted, bluffing bravado. I crouched down and placed my hand directly on her chest, then smiled and said something that made her face turn deathly pale. No choice. I have to confirm whether you're a good person or a bad one. So let me feel your conscience first, okay? The corner of her eye twitched, and her voice cracked. Bastard. If you've got the guts, untie me, and I'll let you get a really good feel of my conscience. I withdrew my hand, stood up, and lit a cigarette. Exhaling a puff, I said leisurely, a prisoner shouldn't be making demands. To put it bluntly, if I took you right now, what could you do about it? She bit her lip and fell silent. After a long silence, she finally spoke. Her name was Xianqi, and she was a doctor. Doctor. Those 2 words made my eyes light up. In the apocalypse, what's the scarcest thing? Not weapons, not food, but people who can save lives. A professional doctor is worth more than 10 guns. Stick with me, and I'll make sure you're fed. From now on, you're mine. For peace of mind, we need to sign a master-servant contract. I pulled out the contract template that came with the system. She shook her head, crisp and decisive. I didn't force the issue, nor did I let her go. I turned around, took out a sausage from my backpack, and chomped on it right in front of her. Watching her throat bob uncontrollably, I smiled even more gleefully. Oh right, I forgot to mention, your conscience is very, very good. Her face flushed red at once, and she glared at me through gritted teeth. If looks could kill, I'd have died 800 times already. What came next was a war of attrition. I ate in front of her, and drank water in front of her too. When she said she was thirsty, I gave her lemonade, so sour it turned her stomach and made her even hungrier. When she said she was hungry, I held a sandwich up to her mouth, and just when she opened it, I pulled it back and took a big bite myself. Delicious. So delicious. I closed my eyes, looking utterly intoxicated. Xianxi was trembling with rage from head to toe. You really don't have to toy with me like this. I stuffed the remaining half of the sandwich into her mouth. She subconsciously chewed twice and swallowed, then froze, her eyes slightly reddening. But she still stubbornly turned her head away. I'd rather starve to death, jump from here, and get eaten by zombies than eat a single thing from you. That's some backbone. I gave her a thumbs up. Early the next morning, the system issued new supplies right on time. Unlimited 9mm bullets. Looking at the densely packed bullet icons in my backpack, my heart skipped a beat. I had the ammo, but where was the gun? Without a gun, this pile of yellow little things was just scrap metal. I frantically refreshed the trading platform, not even daring to blink. After scrolling for most of the morning, I finally saw a listing. ID 72727, offering a P92 pistol, private message with your price. I messaged them immediately. Their opening price was 100 bottles of water and 100 portions of food. I almost laughed out loud. Bro, do you have some misunderstanding about apocalypse prices? That's way too expensive. That gun's bullets are probably long gone already. And I'd still have to find my own ammo. 10 bottles of water, 10 loaves of bread. Let's make friends. After waiting a long time, a single word finally popped up on the screen. Deal. The trade was completed. A dark black handgun was delivered to me through the mailbox, heavy in my hand, carrying the metallic chill unique to metal. I pressed down the magazine to check. Empty, not a single bullet left. I let out a cold laugh and pulled out the unlimited bullets from my backpack, loading them in one by one. The moment the magazine was full, I felt like a completely different person. In this city crawling with zombies, I finally had the confidence to speak with authority. I pushed open the window. 7 or 8 zombies were wandering the street, staggering along with rotting flesh. I raised the gun, took aim, and pulled the trigger. Bang! The bullet struck the ground, kicking up a puff of dust. Xianxi jolted up from the floor in fright and looked at me in terror. I ignored her and kept shooting. It wasn't until the third shot that I hit a zombie in the shoulder, and the fifth shot finally blew its head off. The greatest advantage of unlimited bullets isn't that they're unlimited, but that they give you countless chances to make mistakes. I fired through 2 full magazines and took down all 7 zombies downstairs. A notification suddenly sounded in my head. Gained EXP times 1, gained EXP times 1. 96 EXP remaining until level up. I froze. You can level up in this hellhole too? I pulled up my status panel, and my information was crystal clear. Level 1, Strength 10, Agility 3, full of stamina. Each level up randomly allocates attribute points, and EXP is gained by killing zombies. I stared at that fallen zombie, my mind already calculating. Right now, these are only the lowest level walking corpses. What about later? The system had specifically marked the concept of zombie levels, which meant stronger monsters were bound to appear sooner or later. Hiding in the supermarket and barely surviving is only temporary safety. I climbed onto the supermarket rooftop and set up a firing position. From this angle, the field of view was wide open, the zombies couldn't reach me, and I could pick them off one by one. From noon until dusk, I went on fighting. I swapped out several magazines, and my hands were numb and trembling. Downstairs, 2 or 3 dozen corpses lay densely packed together, and at last the experience bar filled its final segment. A surge of heat welled up from inside me, as if some invisible shackle had been broken through. Congratulations, player, on leveling up to level 2. I hurriedly checked the panel. My strength had risen to 12, and my agility to 5. The P92 in my hand was noticeably lighter, and the sway when aiming was much smaller. This is the effect of attribute points. Coming down from the rooftop, I pushed the door open and entered the office, where I saw Xianxi wriggling across the floor like a caterpillar. After 2 days without food, her gaze had already started to grow unfocused. I gave a heavy cough. She jolted violently, as if struck by electricity. When those eyes saw the fried rice in my hand, they gave off a green glow, the kind only a starving wolf would have. I helped her sit up and sat down in front of her with the fried rice in my hands. The aroma spread through the air, and her stomach let out a loud growl. Want some? She didn't answer. I pinched her cheeks with my left hand, forcing her to open her mouth. A delicate sensation came from my fingertips, and my heart stirred slightly. As I studied the face before me, haggard, yet still stunning, I was momentarily distracted. Are you sick in the head? She muttered indistinctly. I scooped up a heaping spoonful of fried rice and stuffed it into her mouth. She chewed twice and swallowed almost by instinct, and her eyes instantly reddened. 2 days of hunger had made this mouthful of fried rice taste better than any delicacy from land or sea. but she still gritted her teeth and said, "Don't think you can make me submit." I scooped up a second spoonful and brought it to her lips. Her mouth said no, but her lips opened involuntarily. Just as the spoon was about to go in, I suddenly twisted my wrist, and the entire spoonful of fried rice landed precisely in my own mouth. I closed my eyes, looking utterly blissful, and let out a satisfied sigh. "Oh my God, it's so good." Xianqi was furious. You tricked me." Chun Dong swallowed the fried rice and said with a smile, "Once you've thought it through and followed me, then won't you be able to eat whenever you want? But for now, no?" After saying that, Chun Dong no longer paid any attention to the Xianqi, who was trembling all over with anger, and sat back on the sofa to finish off the fried rice. The reason he let Xianqi have a bite of fried rice was naturally not out of a sudden burst of kindness. He was only afraid that if she starved for too long, she would forget the taste of food. After enduring several days of hunger, getting to taste a mouthful of fragrant fried rice would not fill her stomach. On the contrary, it would only make her gastric acid react even faster. Just like a drug addict. After getting a first taste, with no second or third, would only feel worse. That was exactly the state Chun Dong wanted Xianqi to be in. Watching Chun Dong sitting on the sofa and eating his fill, Xianqi suddenly wanted to burst into tears. This man had absolutely no intention of being tender toward women. All he knew was how to bully her again and again. Chun Dong sensed Xianqi's gaze and looked over. The two met each other's eyes, yet it was Chun Dong who felt somewhat embarrassed. It wasn't because he was shy at the sight of a beautiful woman, but because, thinking back on everything he had done to Xianqi over the past few days, he, still not having completely cast off the mindset of a modern person, still felt somewhat ashamed. But he immediately warned himself not to go soft. After all, Chun Dong knew very well that in this world, only by abandoning that useless mercy could one live longer. In a world without order, being kind-hearted and soft is a kind of weakness. Chun Dong took out a bottle of mineral water, poured in some sugar, and fed it to Xianqi. Afterward, he sat beside her. Weak and exhausted, Xianqi collapsed directly into his arms. With some emotion, Chun Dong said, "Dr. Xia, I have to say, you really are stubborn. I'm offering you such good terms, just asking you to be my teammate, and you still won't agree." Xianqi merely looked at him quietly, without saying a word. Chun Dong was left speechless for a moment. Just then, he suddenly thought of a question. "Dr. Xia, if I let you go, what would you do?" Xianqi still said nothing, and Chun Dong couldn't be bothered to talk either. So Chun Dong sat on the floor, holding the tightly bound Xianqi in his arms, and the two remained silent. Suddenly, Xianqi said, "What's your name?" Chun Dong smiled faintly. "Chun Dong." Chun as in Erdong Chun, Dong as in the east, is red. Xianqi nodded, then said seriously, "If you let me go, the first thing I'd do is kill you, you scumbag." Chun Dong was momentarily speechless, then teased, "Dr. Xia, scumbag doesn't really apply to me. That term is for men who cheat people out of money and sex. I can't take that title. After all, nothing happened between us that shouldn't have happened. Though, if you have that idea, I wouldn't mind." Xianqi ground her teeth in anger. "Human scum. That wording, I can reluctantly accept. But if the first thing you want to do is kill me, then I really can't dare let you go." Chun Dong moved Xianqi aside and replied with a hint of amusement. Taking off his clothes, Chun Dong lay down on the sofa. "Dr. Xia, go to sleep. I don't want you to drop dead from exhaustion instead of starving to death. I still want someone to chat with me." Xianqi also lay down on the floor to rest. Hearing what Chun Dong said, she immediately opened her eyes and cursed angrily, "Just shut up." Early on the morning of the third day, Chun Dong woke up and found that Xianqi was unexpectedly motionless today. He couldn't tell whether she was sleeping soundly or had fainted from hunger. Chun Dong walked over and gently pinched Xianqi's cheek. "Dr. Xia, time to get up." He called out several times in a row, but Xianqi still didn't respond. Chun Dong muttered to himself, "She can't really be dead, can she?" Then he put his hand under Xianqi's nose to check. She was still breathing. Only then did Chun Dong feel relieved. He immediately leaned close to Xianqi's ear and said, "Dr. Xia, if you still won't get up, I'll have to give you a full body examination." The Xianqi who had been pretending to sleep had no choice but to open her eyes. "Get lost." Chun Dong chuckled, took out a bottle of mineral water mixed with glucose and sugar and fed it to her, saying, "Dr. Xia, while I'm away, you'd better behave yourself. Otherwise, if you attract zombies and they crunch you up, you won't have anyone to blame." After Xianqi finished the water, she let out a cold laugh. "Heh, I won't let you off even as a ghost." Chun Dong shrugged. Whatever. I am the reincarnation of Ning Kaichen, specializing in subduing female ghosts. After feeding Xianqi the water, Qindong ate breakfast while, as usual, opening his email to see what supplies the system had sent him today. The moment he opened the email, Qindong thought he was seeing things. He rubbed his eyes, only to realize he hadn't seen wrong. The supplies for the third day were actually an unlimited quantity of little raincoats. Qindong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What the hell use were these supplies? Was he supposed to fill them with water and throw them at zombies? After all, this thing seemed useful only when achieving the great harmony of life without wanting to produce offspring. As for filling them with water to make water balloons, that was just a new way of playing Qindong had invented as a child with the kids in the courtyard, secretly using the little raincoats handed out for free by the neighborhood committee. Qindong took out a little raincoat and turned to ask Xianqi, "Dr. Xia, do you know what this thing can be used for?" Xianqi glanced at the little raincoat in Qindong's hand, and her face reddened slightly. How boring. Qindong kept a straight face. I mean, does this thing have any other uses? As for its normal use, I do know it. Xianqi explained. The material little raincoats are made of is rubber, so they can be used as bandages or air bladders. Once filled with water, they can also serve as simple high-altitude bombs, though they're probably useless against zombies. With Xianqi's reminder, Qindong began to realize the strategic value of the little raincoat. Bandages were already scarce medical supplies. If there could be a substitute, that would obviously add another layer of security for survival. As for airbags, Qindong wasn't sure whether there would be any severe weather or difficult terrain later on. If it came to crossing a river, judging from the fact that there were currently no records of anyone trading vehicles on the trading platform, that probably wouldn't happen anytime soon. In that case, using little raincoats to make a simple small raft would be an absolute pioneer's tool. Thinking of this, Qindong started to feel satisfied with today's supplies. He casually put several hundred little raincoats on the trading platform, then returned to the supermarket rooftop and calmly continued killing zombies. Gained 1 experience, gained 1 experience, gained 1 experience, gained 1 experience. In his spare moments, Qindong opened the trading platform. Unexpectedly, little raincoats were selling surprisingly well. You had to know that his exchange conditions were all essential supplies. While eating bread, Qindong muttered to himself, "Are these people really willing to skip meals just to satisfy their urges?" After opening the chat channel, Qindong finally understood. ID 38343. Brothers, in Dongyuan residential compound, there's a flight attendant trading sex for supplies. She's skilled too. Crazy exciting. I was almost drained dry. ID 346304. Holy crap. Nice, nice, nice. Where is it? Bro, send the coordinates. ID 3838. Same here. I'm just curious, nothing else. ID 38343. Coordinates sent, 235,452. Brothers nearby, charge on over. ID 10101. Is anyone looking for one? I can do it too. As long as you give me food and water, anyone interested can private message me, moi. The chat channel was buzzing with discussion. Clearly, the reason Qindong's little raincoats sold so quickly was partly thanks to them. Qindong said nothing. He also understood that, in a doomsday world like this, some people couldn't survive and would sell their bodies in exchange for supplies. This was bound to happen. After all, in an environment like this, how much was chastity worth? But Qindong still felt somewhat uncomfortable. He suddenly thought of Xianqi. If Xianqi couldn't survive, then would she also have to rely on selling her body for supplies? Qindong suddenly stopped his baseless train of thought and chuckled to himself. Damn, I can barely protect myself. I might lose my life any day now, so why am I thinking so much about other people? After saying that, he focused his attention once more on the zombies in the street. Gained 1 experience, gained 1 experience, gained 1 experience, gained 1 experience. Congratulations, player. You have leveled up. Please keep up the good work. Level 30/300 strength, 15 agility, 7 stamina, hunger few. Finally leveled up. Qindong shook his slightly sore arms. After more than 10 hours of hard fighting, he had finally reached level 3, with strength increased by 3 points and agility by 2 points. He had completed a small goal. Now that he was starving, it was time to eat something. Qindong took out a pack of crispy noodles and a bottle of mineral water, replenishing his strength while browsing the trading platform. Sure enough, he actually found something useful. A pistol suppressor. This was a good item. With this thing, he wouldn't make too much noise when firing, greatly improving his safety. Looking again at the other party's terms, it was only 10 bottles of water. Bought it. Flush with resources, Dong had no intention of haggling. To him, that was a complete waste of time. Very soon, a pistol suppressor appeared in his hand, mounted on the muzzle. It somehow added a few more shades of killing intent. Just then, Dong suddenly became alert. In his line of sight, a shifty blonde guy was sneaking into the supermarket below. Because the zombies on this street had already been cleared once, the other party didn't encounter any danger. Trouble. Dong's gaze sharpened. Holding his pistol, he quietly walked down from the rooftop. Just as he reached the stairs, he heard Xianqi's cries for help from the second-floor office. "Help! Someone save me!" Xianqi shouted in a hoarse voice. "Haha, I didn't expect that coming out to gather supplies. I'd actually run into such a beautiful woman. I've been holding it in these past few days, and you just happen to be perfect for letting off some steam." A strange man's voice came from the office. Then came the rustling of pants being taken off, along with the sound of clothes tearing. Holding his gun, Dong hurried down to the second floor. "Damn it. Quit struggling and behave yourself." Just as the yellow-haired punk was about to force himself on her, a gunshot suddenly rang out from behind him. Then a burst of sharp pain shot through his left shoulder. It hurts so damn much. The yellow-haired punk clutched his left arm with his right hand and cried out in pain. Dong's face was icy as he stood at the office doorway with a pistol in hand, the barrel giving off a faint wisp of heat. "You dare touch my woman." Dong's voice was low as he fired another shot into the punk's left thigh. The yellow-haired punk was in so much pain that tears streamed down his face. Not knowing which bullet wound to cover, he could only lie on the ground and beg for mercy. "Big brother, I was wrong. I was wrong. I hadn't touched her yet. Please spare me. I'll be your servant, your beast of burden." Dong still wore a blank expression. "Even if you called me dad, it would be useless." The yellow-haired punk looked terrified, his whole body trembling. "Why, yes, you're my grandpa. You're my ancestor. When an ancestor beats a grandson, that's only right. Please, great ancestor, be magnanimous and spare me." Listening to the yellow-haired punk's noisy babbling, Dong grew irritated. Thinking of how the punk had nearly laid hands on Xianqi, for some reason, he couldn't control his emotions. "You talk too much." Dong raised his pistol and riddled the yellow-haired punk with bullets. Watching the man collapse to the ground with a face full of terror and disbelief, motionless, it took Dong quite a while to come back to his senses. After that, he walked over to the panic-stricken Xianqi, rolled his eyes, and said, "You're not dead, are you?" Xianqi burst into tears. Having grown up this far, when had she ever encountered something like this? Thinking about how she had almost been violated just now, the grievance in her heart became unstoppable. Dong said nothing and waited until Xianqi had cried herself hoarse. Then Dong untied her, took out a clean set of clothes, and placed them beside her before walking out of the office. "The clothes you were wearing before are torn. Change into the new ones." Dong walked downstairs in the abandoned supermarket and took everything from the yellow-haired punk's backpack. There was nothing good in it, far inferior to his own stuff. After changing clothes, Xianqi walked out of the abandoned supermarket and came to Dong's side. Dong took out 10 portions of water and food from his backpack. Xianqi frowned and asked, "What do you mean by this?" Dong shrugged and said, "I'm letting you leave. But whether you live or die after this will depend on your luck." Without waiting for Xianqi to speak, Dong left the abandoned supermarket directly. Meeting 2 people in 3 days showed that this place was no longer safe. More players might continue to arrive in the future. There was no helping it. He had to choose to leave. As for Xianqi, there wasn't much Dong could do for her. Leaving behind some living supplies could at least let her survive a few more days, which was already the utmost benevolence. Dong walked farther away without looking back, and the next moment he heard footsteps coming from behind him. After leveling up multiple times, Dong's physical abilities had undergone a qualitative leap. He could now catch even faint sounds he couldn't hear before. Turning around, he saw someone following him 30 or 40 meters behind him. It was Xianqi. Dong lowered his gun and walked back. When Xianqi saw that Dong had noticed her, she also started walking back. Dong couldn't figure out what she wanted to do, so he simply let her follow him. The two kept moving like this for half a day. At noon, when they stopped to rest and resupply, Dong suddenly heard Xianqi scream from behind and hurried back at once. After following for half a day, Xianqi's feet were getting sore. If she stopped, she would quickly be left far behind, so she had no choice but to bite the bullet and keep up. At long last, when Dong sat down to rest, Xianqi also got to sit down as she wished. But the moment she sat down, she noticed a zombie staggering toward her. Xianxi had no choice but to run forward, and happened to crash straight into the rushing Qindong. Qindong blew its head off with a single shot, then drew out a few more and suppressed them with firepower as well. After dealing with the zombies, Xianxi still wanted to leave, but Qindong grabbed her, looking somewhat helpless. "You've been following me all this way. How much longer do you plan to keep following? Come here, let's have lunch together." Just like that, the two sat on a pile of hay and quietly ate lunch. Looking at Xianxi, who was chewing slowly now, completely different from the way she had wolfed down food before, Qindong couldn't help asking, "Dr. Xia, you followed me all the way here. What exactly do you want? Today you were lucky and ran into only a few zombies. Next time, if we run into a horde, I won't have the spare attention to look after you." Xianxi didn't answer directly and instead asked, "Do the words you said before still count?" "What words?" Xianxi said, "You said that if I joined you, you'd protect me and provide me with 3 meals a day. You're not going back on your word, are you?" Qindong chuckled a little when he heard that. "Weren't you rather die than submit before? Now you're following me just for this?" Xianxi raised an eyebrow, looking a little embarrassed. "So does it still count or not?" Qindong shrugged and sent Xianxi a team-up and contract signing request. "Of course it still counts. Team-up successful. Master-servant contract signed successfully." The moment the team was formed, the two could see each other's personal information at a glance. In the team system, there would be features between players such as location viewing and team voice chat. At the same time, teammates could selectively gift part of their experience, and they could not harm each other. As for the master-servant contract, it added a powerful restriction on top of that. If the master dies, the servant dies. If the master lives, the servant lives. And if one wanted to jitchu the contract, only the master had that right. Qindong looked at Xianxi and said with a smile, "Dr. Xia, call me master so I can hear it." Xianxi shot him an annoyed look. She still couldn't bring herself to say those 2 words. After eating and drinking their fill, the two continued onward. They proceeded cautiously along the way and did not encounter any major danger. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After 3 gunshots, Qindong took care of 3 zombies and made a hand signal behind him. Seeing it, Xianxi immediately jogged all the way over to Qindong's side. "Qindong, how much farther is it?" Following Qindong along the way, she had been on edge the whole time, and had even thought that staying in that little convenience store before might have been safer. Qindong didn't think so. He said in a low voice, "Be quiet. There are more than just these 3 zombies in this building. Keep your voice down." Even with the suppressor equipped, there would still be faint gunshots, which sounded especially obvious in the deathly silent corridor. Actually, this kind of suppressor wasn't even the best. In Qindong's view, the quality of this suppressor should only count as substandard. It even carried a bit of an airgun sound when firing. Qindong was still very clear-eyed about his own strength and equipment. The only piece of equipment he could really show off right now was a P92. One magazine held 15 rounds, and sometimes he still might not hit the target. Although he had just killed 3 zombies with 3 shots, to be honest, that was only under the specific condition that the targets weren't moving and were very close together. Looks like I'll have to practice my shooting more in the future. Anyway, the bullets are unlimited. Qindong silently made up his mind that after reaching the villa district and settling down, he would clear out zombies in the surrounding area and do some looting along the way. The reason he brought Xianxi weaving through various corridors instead of taking the main road was because, before setting out, he had already used the traded binoculars to observe the area. There were too many zombies on the main street. So many that just one glance was enough to make one's heart pound. Not to mention anything else. With just this P92 holding 15 rounds, even if every bullet were fired, it still might not be enough to kill 2 zombies. With my current marksmanship, it would be pretty good if I could kill even one moving target. When the apocalypse first happened, everyone was teleported here and was basically in a dazed state. Some weren't afraid of death, some refused to believe it, and some panicked and ran out onto the streets, drawing the zombies from the buildings outside. So Qindong figured there probably weren't many zombies left in the buildings. On top of that, given how narrow the corridors are, even if there were a large horde of zombies, they wouldn't be able to swarm all at once. Even though zombies are about as fast as normal people and never get tired, which makes them very troublesome. However, the narrowness of the corridors instead gave Qindong a certain degree of convenience in escaping. Qindong led Xianxi forward little by little along the wall, carefully listening to the sounds in the hallway. These stupid zombies, when they lose their target, will stand motionless in place. But occasionally, they also wander around looking for fresh flesh to eat. Dong raised his guard to the highest level, gripping the gun with both hands, and gave Xianqi a look. Go open the door. Xianqi's face turned pale as she said in a trembling voice, We should just go. Dong frowned. This stupid woman. Why was she dropping the ball at a time like this? Open the door now. It'll be fine. Xianqi gritted her teeth, still looking hesitant. I don't dare. I'm scared. Damn it. Dong was getting angry. If you don't open the door, I won't keep you with me anymore. Xianqi's face went pale when she heard that. Gritting her teeth and squeezing her eyes shut, she rushed over and shoved the door open. Dong was startled. Had this stupid woman gone crazy? Was she trying to rush in and feed herself to the zombies? Terrified, Dong hurriedly yanked this foolish woman back, then darted out and immediately pulled the trigger with his pistol aimed into the room. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dong fired off a burst of bullets, riddling the 2 zombies in the room with holes. Fortunately, he had at least managed to kill the 2 zombies in the room. Grabbing Xianqi, Dong darted into the room and immediately shut the door. Then he removed the magazine, took out 9mm bullets from his backpack, and began loading them one by one. This was the worst part. After emptying one magazine, he still had to reload it 1 bullet at a time. Dong said seriously to Xianqi, Dr. Xia, there's something I need to make clear to you. First of all, we're teammates, not me dragging along dead weight. And I'm the captain. Next time, when I tell you to do something, you do it. Don't ever say things like, I'm scared, or let's go again. This isn't the peaceful world from before, and your status as a highly educated doctor is useless here. If this time hadn't been a zombie clearing operation, but instead us being chased by zombies, your indecisiveness would only have gotten both of us killed. Xianqi looked a little upset, but she knew Dong was telling the truth. I'm sorry, I understand. I'll listen properly from now on. Dong nodded and said with satisfaction, Don't worry. I said I'd protect your safety, and naturally, I won't go back on my word. I had you open the door because I was confident I wouldn't let the zombies bite you. Xianqi nodded somewhat embarrassedly. Dong was quite satisfied with her obedient attitude, and took out a can of luncheon meat, 2 self-heating rice meals, and 2 pieces of fruit. Food like this could be considered extremely luxurious in the apocalyptic world of today. Seeing today's meal, Xianqi couldn't help swallowing. Eat something. We'll stay here for the night, and tomorrow we'll see if we can leave this block. Dong did not plan to keep moving. At night, these zombies became very active, and their senses were sharper than during the day. At this time, appearing within the zombies' line of sight, even if you weren't discovered by them, even the tiniest wound would attract packs of sharks, like cutting your finger in the deep sea. Dong opened the rice and let it heat up on its own. Dong, where exactly are we going? We've been trekking all day, nervous every step of the way. I was scared to death. If you ask me, we'd be better off staying in that little convenience store from before. The corner of Dong's mouth lifted. What do you know? I don't know, so why won't you explain it to me? Xianqi pouted and muttered. What's so good about that little convenience store? It had nothing we needed, and there were a lot of people. Plus, it was in the city, and in a metropolis like this, the population density in the old Kingchid is especially high. Staying there for a day or 2 as a temporary stop would be fine. Dong shook his head and said with a bitter smile, But think about it. What about later? If we stay in that place, and one day a large-scale zombie horde breaks out in that area, the 2 of us living people probably wouldn't have even scraps left by then. After hearing this, Xianqi immediately pictured that kind of zombie tide in the hundreds or thousands, stretching beyond sight. In an instant, her delicate little face turned pale. Even though it was only an imagined scene, she still couldn't help feeling a wave of lingering fear. She couldn't help but feel that Dong was very farsighted. She was not a stupid woman. Although she was somewhat timid compared to Dong, a grown man, she still knew how to read the situation. Thinking of this, Xianqi suddenly felt that following Dong was a very correct decision. After eating the sumptuous meal, Dong seized the time to rest. This was the apocalypse, especially while traveling on the road, and he didn't dare waste even a single minute of rest. Stamina was the most important thing for staying alive. Seeing this, Xianqi also lay down beside Dong and closed her eyes to rest. But with such a man full of masculine presence lying beside her, she simply couldn't fall asleep. She even thought to herself, with such a great beauty as me lying right next to him, how could Dong possibly remain unmoved? Could it be that my charm isn't enough? Xianqi felt a little defeated. Before the apocalypse, while studying at the country's top medical school, she had truly been the campus belle. And even after coming to the hospital where she worked, She was a highly renowned genius chief physician. How had she now fallen so low that she couldn't even attract Qindong? Xianqi was distressed, but Qindong hadn't thought that much about it. He could still clearly distinguish the rationality of his upper body from the beastly instincts of his lower body. Thinking about that sort of thing at a time like this was basically courting death. Qindong adapted to the apocalypse very quickly. He now maintained a very regular sleep schedule and had also developed a very good habit of light sleep. It ensured enough alertness so that he could wake up very quickly when danger arose, while also ensuring that his body got enough rest and replenishment of stamina. Early the next morning, the vibration of his phone woke Qindong from sleep. He rolled over and sat up, first looking around to confirm there was no danger. Then he opened today's email and received today's unlimited supplies. Cold medicine granules. This was extremely practical medical aid. After all, in such harsh conditions, many people were exposed to the elements, and catching colds or running fevers was perfectly normal. If they couldn't get timely treatment, it would be quite dangerous. He nudged Xianqi beside him. Qindong walked to the balcony, took out his binoculars, and looked over the situation on the street. The situation on the street was very calm. At a glance, there were basically hardly any zombies in sight. However, Qindong was no ordinary person, so naturally he would not be deceived by the false appearance before his eyes. Although there are only a few zombies in sight now, he had learned this lesson the hard way. At first, Qindong and Xianqi were walking on the street. Those cunning zombies may dislike the blazing sun, but that doesn't mean they fear sunlight. As soon as living humans appeared on the street as targets, they would still rush toward them like mad. In the end, Qindong had to take Xianqi into a nearby residential building to narrowly escape disaster. Xianqi rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked at Qindong's back with a resentful expression, muttering, "What a blockhead. He doesn't know how to cherish a woman at all." Qindong heard her muttering and smiled. "All right, once we get to our destination, I'll let you sleep as much as you want." Xianqi's pretty face instantly turned red. "Let me sleep as much as I want." Qindong didn't realize the ambiguity in his words and continued, "I won't hide it from you. I plan to head to the suburbs this time. Compared to the city center, the population density in the suburbs is much lower. I know there's a villa district there. The population density in that kind of wealthy area is very low, so naturally there won't be many zombies either. So if we can find a villa there as a long-term safe shelter, at least the living conditions will be much better than a small convenience store, at the very least." Xianqi pouted and muttered, "The current living conditions aren't that great either, okay." Qindong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "We're heading toward a better life, aren't we? All right, stop complaining. We'll set off after breakfast." Once again, they advanced cautiously all the way, then found a safe place to rest at night. When they woke up the next morning, Qindong checked his email as usual. The next moment, his expression instantly turned extremely ugly. "Damn it, system, you're not messing with me, are you?" Looking at the newly added infinite supply of cotton in his backpack, Qindong's face was full of conflict. What use is cotton? Seriously, what the hell? You can't eat it or drink it. What? Am I supposed to use it to wrap my corpse when I die? Qindong thought. What's wrong? Xianqi had also just woken up. Seeing Qindong's changing expression, she couldn't help asking in confusion. Qindong shook his head. "The system gave me some cotton. Even though it's an infinite supply, honestly, it's even more useless than chicken ribs." Qindong seriously suspected this was the system's sick sense of humor, something made specifically to mess with him. As disgusting as it was still sitting right at the top of the backpack, but Qindong didn't bother with it and just left it there for now. "It's nothing," Qindong said, shaking his head and not paying further attention to the matter, though he still couldn't help feeling disappointed inside. He had thought it might give some medical supplies after all. After all, there was still a doctor by his side. If he could get something like medical alcohol, such an extremely precious resource, then survival in the apocalypse would be much more secure. Dark clouds filled the sky, and faint peals of thunder rumbled. The occasional gusts of wind seemed to herald the arrival of bad weather. The oppressive feeling brought by the dark clouds pressing down on the city made Qindong even more vigilant than usual, especially since he and Xianqi were on their way to the villa district. No one knew how many zombies might be there, or how many ill-intentioned people. Following behind Qindong, Xianqi looked at the dark clouds in the sky and said worriedly, "Qindong, it looks like it's going to rain. Do we have an umbrella? In this kind of environment, if we catch a cold, the consequences would be unthinkable." Qindong held a pistol in his hand and walked ahead scouting the way. Hearing Xianqi's words, he stopped, turned around, and said, "We don't have an umbrella. But if you're worried about catching a cold, then perfect. I have plenty of cold medicine here. As much as you need. Xianqi let out an oh, then explained. Humph, I'm healthy, so I'm not afraid of catching a cold. I'm just worried that if you, the team's DPS, gets sick, then I'll be the only support left, anxiously standing by and waiting for the zombies to wipe us out. Hearing Xianqi's words of concern, Qindong felt a little warmth in his heart, but he also found her saying one thing and meaning another somewhat amusing. He teased, "It's fine, Dr. Xia. You're the healer. If I take a few sips of your milk, won't I recover?" After saying that, he continued walking forward. Listening to Qindong teasing her, Xianqi blushed with embarrassment. Seeing Qindong walking farther away and not daring to stay where she was for too long, she could only stamp her foot to vent her little frustration, then quickly followed after him, shouting, "You jerk, Qindong, wait for me." At last, they neared the villa district. Qindong and Xianqi hid in a watchtower not far away. Qindong was observing the situation inside the villa district with binoculars. After a long while, he finally slowly lowered the binoculars and remained silent. Seeing Qindong's deeply furrowed expression, Xianqi didn't dare disturb him at first, but after a while, when he still said nothing, she couldn't help asking, "Qindong, is the situation in the villa district really that bad?" Only then did Qindong snap out of his thoughts and notice Xianqi sitting beside him, concern showing in her eyes. Qindong patted the back of her hand and comforted her. "It's fine. It's just that the situation differs somewhat from the previous intel. There aren't exactly few zombies here. In fact, there are rather a lot. But it's not too troublesome either. It just requires some planning. I'm thinking about how to arrange it." Xianqi said seriously, "Qindong, if the villa district is really too dangerous, we can actually hold off on going there for now. We can find another safe shelter and come back later once our equipment is better." Qindong smiled and said, "When have you ever seen me charge in recklessly to fight zombies? If I said I'd take you in to live in a villa, then naturally I won't lie to you. As for you, don't let me down again. Adapt to surviving in the apocalypse as soon as possible. Even if one day I'm no longer around, you'll still be able to survive well on your own." Hearing Qindong's words, Xianqi quickly said, Pa, don't say such unlucky things." But then she pouted and muttered, "I know I let people down, but I'm really scared whenever I see zombies." Seeing how guilty Xianqi looked, Qindong softened a little. "I understand. Any girl would scream in fear when running into zombies and the like. But Xianqi, this isn't a game. If you die, you really die. As your teammate, I hope you live well. I hope you can become someone I can trust to watch my back. This is the last time I'll say these things. What happens next depends on you." Qindong patted Xianqi on the head and said no more. Xianqi hated it most when other people touched her head, but Qindong's words set countless thoughts stirring in her heart, and she let him stroke her hair like a docile little cat. Qindong had taken a liking to the most luxurious villa in the district. It wasn't for anything else. He just liked its north-facing, south-facing orientation, and it sat by the lake. That was truly a fine view. Even in a world like this, where they were escaping to survive the apocalypse, if conditions allowed, no one wanted their living environment to be too poor. Qindong traded for some Molotov cocktails and 2 grenades on the trading platform. He planned to use them against the zombies. In addition, he bought a crossbow for Xianqi for self-defense. "Dr. Xia, we're about to enter the villa district. You must stay close to me. Follow my instructions. This crossbow is for your self-defense, but don't just shoot zombies casually and attract attention. For now, take it and practice a bit first." Xianqi took the crossbow and said with a determined gaze, "Qindong, don't worry, I definitely won't hold you back. I believe you. Let me teach you how to use the crossbow." Then, Qindong taught Xianqi hand in hand how to use the crossbow. Only after making sure she had some ability to protect herself did he finally feel at ease. Qindong said to Xianqi, "All right, let's start heading in now. Looking at this weather, it'll probably rain. Let's make this quick and sleep in a big villa tonight." Xianqi smiled and said, "Okay, I hope there's a big bed inside so we can get a good night's sleep." The two didn't waste any words. After getting their supplies in order, they started heading for their destination. Entering the villa district, Qindong led Xianqi along the grassy path behind the cluster of villas. This was usually the path property management took for inspections, and under normal circumstances, hardly anyone would walk here. But with zombies swarming everywhere now, Qindong had no idea whether there would be a lot of zombies on this little path. He was also taking a gamble. After all, A frontal assault would be no different from serving themselves up as a feast for the zombies. They were lucky. There were no zombies on this grassy path. Just as Chundong and Xianqi were about to leave the grassy path, a zombie suddenly walked in from the far end. Chundong was the closest. As the one clearing the way, he had been walking in front the whole time, and it could be said that he and the zombie almost had direct face-to-face contact. At that moment, Chundong had no time to draw his gun. The zombie lunged at him with both arms flailing. Whoosh whoosh. Two sharp bolts shot from behind Chundong, grazing past his ears and flying straight into the zombie's mouth. Thick gore burst from the zombie as it pitched forward onto Chundong. Chundong shoved the zombie away and looked at the still-shaken Xianqi behind him holding the crossbow, then gave her a thumbs up. I didn't expect Dr. Xia to have such a strong talent for shooting. Snapping back to her senses, Xianqi quickly asked, "Are you okay? That scared me to death just now. I shot the zombie with the crossbow right away, and then realized you and the zombie were so close. I was so afraid of hitting you. But luckily, I killed the zombie in one shot." After hearing Xianqi's confession, Chundong, who hadn't been afraid even when the zombie came right up in his face, was now breaking out in a cold sweat. Thinking about the sharp bolt that had just flown past his ear, he said to himself, "Close, so close. Just a little more, and I would have died before even succeeding. And in an utterly miserable way too, getting taken out by my own teammate. All right, I'm fine. Let's keep going. The shelter we picked out earlier is almost here." At that moment, sounds came from the outskirts of the villa district. "Damn it. Charge in and seize a villa. Once we get inside, the zombies won't be much of a threat to us. Fire arrows. Suppress the zombies' attack and set them on fire." Chundong frowned. He hadn't expected other players to enter the villa district too, but that worked out well. They could draw the attention of the vast majority of the zombies instead. From the sound of it, they were a fairly large group. Chundong grabbed Xianqi and, taking advantage of the chaos, rushed out of the grassy path and ran toward the villa they had chosen. Even so, a few zombies still picked up Chundong and Xianqi's scent and charged at them. But before they could get close, Chundong used Molotov cocktails to block them off from a distance. In the end, he even threw a grenade into the horde. Boom. The zombie horde was left with heavy casualties, and the two of them successfully ran into the lakeside villa. The commotion caused by Chundong's side also alerted the group on the outer edge of the villa district. Holy shit, there are players in here too? He actually has a grenade as well. What's so strange about that? Don't we have one too? There's no way he has more. I'm guessing he only has one. Damn it, I wanted to save this grenade, but looks like we can't anymore. Soon after, there was another explosion from a grenade going off. After Chundong and Xianqi entered the villa, they had just shut the front door when they saw several zombies on the first floor. Before the zombies could react, Chundong directly pulled out his P92 and opened fire. Together with Xianqi wildly shooting beside him, they quickly cleared out the few zombies in the villa. The reason Chundong used up the few Molotov cocktails he had outside without regard for the cost, and even spent a grenade, rather than pulling out his P92 pistol, was because he was worried about alerting the other group. After all, although Molotov cocktails and grenades are precious, they can still be bought on the trading platform. But as for firearms, no one is currently willing to list them on the trading platform. Everyone treats them as priceless treasures. After Chundong and Xianqi cleared the zombies out of the villa, they secured it as their long-term shelter from then on. At the same time, a window popped up on Chundong's interface. "Dear player, it has been detected that this shelter is currently unclaimed. Would you like to take it over?" Yes/no. Chundong clicked the yes option. As the system prompt sounded, Chundong felt that this villa had become the property of their team. Villa District Shelter. A place for players to rest. In the later stages, it can be upgraded using blueprints and used to avoid zombie hordes and challenges between players. Chundong turned to look at Xianqi and said with a smile, "Dr. Xia, this villa now, we can live in for a very long time. You can also think of it as our home in this apocalyptic world." Seeing Xianqi laugh joyfully as the pressure lifted, Chundong also came out of his combat state. Yes, being able to have a shelter in a zombie world is truly a luxury. After looking around the villa, Chundong walked to the balcony on the second floor. That group that pushed in from the front, although they successfully entered the villa district, suffered heavy losses. They were clearly visible, and presumably their supplies had been heavily depleted as well. After all, nearly more than half of the zombies in the entire villa district had run over to their side. In another villa, a young man reported to the middle-aged burly man sitting on a luxurious leather sofa. "Brother Jiang, we suffered heavy losses this time. Half the brothers died, And more importantly, our combat supplies are gone. All we have left are some cold weapons. Jiang Kai listened to the report, his face gloomy as he slammed the marble coffee table in front of him twice. Damn it. It's all because the intel was wrong. They said there were few zombies in the villa district, and as a result we rashly attacked from the front and ended up killing off most of the zombies in the villa district ourselves. Now it's true that there are fewer zombies in the villa district. Damn it. Just as he was furious and cursing loudly, a bolt of lightning suddenly struck from the sky, followed by a thunderous boom. Crack. The black clouds finally could no longer bear the burden, and heavy rain poured down. The air turned damp and cold, and the temperature plummeted. The chat channel exploded. ID 382334. Damn it. I thought I could get some drinking water when it started raining, but after collecting a bucket, it showed that it was acid rain. Not only that, if you reach out and touch the acid rain, you'll get burned. It hurts like hell. ID 345345. I was just about to collect some water. Whatever, I'll keep collecting it first, in case one day I really run out of water supplies. Boiled acid rain is sweeter than Nongfu Spring. ID 35233. I actually feel a bit cold now. How long is this rain going to last? If it rains for a whole day, I could freeze to death out in the wild. ID 233333. My shabby little shack is drafty on all sides. I can't hold out. I feel like I'm already about to catch a cold. Looking at the sky through the glass, Qindong saw no sign at all that the heavy rain was about to stop. Someone in the chat channel had just complained about whether it might rain for a whole day, and Qindong felt that this was not impossible. Achoo! Sitting on the sofa in the villa's living room, Xianqi sneezed. She rubbed the arms that had broken out in goosebumps, trying to warm herself. Qindong sat down beside her and asked, "Feeling cold?" Xianqi nodded honestly. "A little cold. The temperature dropped too fast, and it's a bit hard to adjust." That was indeed the case. Even Qindong, who had been upgraded, could still feel a trace of chill, let alone Xianqi, who had not yet been upgraded and was also a frail woman. Need to find something to keep warm. Qindong thought about whether to light a fire for warmth. Then he suddenly thought of today's unlimited supplies. What a perfect coincidence. Cotton can be used to make quilts. He couldn't make a sturdy, super warm quilt, but stuffing fabric full of cotton was no challenge at all for Qindong. Besides, there was plenty of cotton. If one quilt wasn't warm enough, then he'd just make two. While opening the trading platform to gather fabric, needles, and thread, Qindong said to Xianqi, "Wait a moment, I'll show you a magic trick." Before long, he took out the materials he had gathered for making quilts. Xianqi looked at the cotton and fabric scattered all over the floor, her face full of astonishment. "Qindong, how do you have cotton?" Qindong smiled and said, "Of course I traded for it on the trading platform. Dr. Xia, if you want to sleep under a quilt sooner, help me sew the fabric together. I'm really not used to using embroidery needles." Xianqi quickly nodded. "Hee, this is my specialty." With the needles, thread, and fabric in hand, Xianqi quickly made several quilt covers in no time. Work of this difficulty was nothing to a doctor like her. Soon, Qindong and Xianqi got their wish and snuggled under quilts. Qindong took steaming hot food and warm coffee out of his backpack and wrapped in the quilts, with food and drink in hand. It felt just like a weekend getaway. No matter how the wind blew and rain battered outside the villa, no matter how many players were shivering from the cold, none of it had anything to do with them. After eating and drinking their fill, Xianqi curled up under the covers and murmured happily, This feels so good." Qindong leaned closer and asked, "What feels good?" Suddenly feeling the strong warmth of a man's breath by her ear, Xianqi's ears turned slightly red. She shrank her head under the covers and pouted. "You jerk, Qindong. You're making fun of me again." Qindong burst out laughing and ruffled Xianqi's hair. Unlike in battle, where he sought caution and could even be ruthless, outside of battle Qindong hoped he could relax, joke around with Xianqi without restraint, and have someone by his side to chat with. If he stayed constantly wound up with battle nerves, he felt he wouldn't last much longer. Xianqi had also realized that after just a few short days of fleeing for their lives, she had actually become a little unable to do without Qindong. Sometimes when she noticed Qindong wasn't around, she would feel uneasy, thinking about how she had originally wanted to assassinate Qindong, only to end up shamelessly sticking to him. She couldn't help but feel somewhat ashamed. But she knew her choice had been the right one. By Qindong's side, she had found the sense of security missing from this apocalyptic world. At that moment, a thought suddenly popped into Xianqi's mind. Biting her lip, her expression tangled with hesitation for quite a while, she suddenly raised her head and asked, "Qindong, How about tonight? You come to my room. Shindong was so startled that he jolted. Single since birth until now, and now a great beauty was actually taking the initiative to offer herself to him. Shindong's mind suddenly went blank, and he blurted out, "No, a woman will only affect the speed at which I draw my gun. Forget touching. I'm not even allowed to think about it." Xianqi froze. She hadn't expected that after she, a girl, had taken such initiative, Shindong would reject her so mercilessly. Xianqi stood up indignantly, let out a huff, wrapped in her quilt, and stomped upstairs. Walked into a room, and with a bang slammed the door shut hard. Only then did Shindong's brain start working again, and he was filled with regret. Damn, did a donkey kick my brain, or what? Shindong could only comfort himself by thinking that they had only just arrived at the villa area and the crisis had not yet been resolved. Right now, thinking about romance between men and women was inappropriate. Shindong looked at the chat channel, where people were still complaining about the weather. Listening to the crowd of players complaining about the cold, he gritted his teeth and muttered, "I'm miserable, so you all can be miserable with me too." After that, Shindong used the system screenshot function to take a picture of himself lying on a luxurious sofa wrapped in a quilt. ID 10086, huh? Why don't you have quilts? I thought everyone had them. Image attached. ID 878732. ID 45432. Damn, how can there be such a thing as a quilt? ID 99923. 10086. If you've got the guts, send your coordinates over. I swear I won't beat you to death. ID 10086. Haha, I just happen to have a few extra quilts. Do you want them? I've listed them on the trading platform. As he spoke in the chat channel, Shindong listed the quilts on the trading platform. But the trading conditions were harsh. Only combat supplies were accepted. This was practically extortionate. Combat supplies already required large amounts of food and water to trade for, and exchanging for quilts required a large amount of combat supplies on top of that. Calculated together, not many people could afford it. After the quilts were listed, the chat channel was full of people denouncing Shindong. ID 93849. Are you even human? You might as well just rob people. This many supplies for one lousy quilt? ID 10086. You don't have to trade for it. I'm not the one freezing anyway. But a friendly reminder, judging by the look of it, this rain won't be stopping anytime soon. ID 77777. Let's boycott him together. Make sure he can't sell a single one. Let him keep them till New Year. ID 85842. Yeah, that's right. I'd rather freeze to death, die outside, than ever buy this lousy quilt. ID 34341. Huh? How is one quilt sold? ID 552. I'm really sorry, but the quilt is genuinely warm. Brothers, keep up the boycott. I'm out first. Watching everyone turn their attacks toward ID 552, Shindong almost laughed out loud. Although he made quite a few people jealous in the chat channel, he still successfully traded away several quilts and obtained a large amount of combat supplies. Right after that, Shindong listed some cold medicine as well, and called out in the chat channel, "Brothers, I just listed some cold medicine. The price is reasonable, so if you need it, hurry up and buy it. You don't plan on fighting zombies while dragging around a sick body, do you?" This time, the chat channel wasn't as lively in condemning Shindong as before. The players weren't stupid, they all knew how important cold medicine was. Quite a few players who were already coming down with colds looked at the cold medicine, which still required combat supplies to exchange for. Though they cursed him in their hearts, they still had to bite the bullet and trade. There was one thing Shindong said right. No one wanted to fight zombies while sick. The cold medicine was expensive, sure, but if you lost your life, then all those supplies you kept would just be loot for the players who came later. Very quickly, the cold medicine was snapped up, and Shindong's backpack was soon filled with large amounts of combat supplies, such as crossbow bolts, crossbows, daggers, hand axes, and the like. Someone even traded using grenades, which Shindong hadn't expected. In the chat channel, there were still some people making threats at Shindong. ID 10,000. 10086. What goes around comes around. Just you wait. ID 10010. Once my cold gets better, I'm definitely going to scatter your ashes. 10,086. Shindong was fully focused on sorting the combat supplies in his backpack. Seeing the threats in the chat channel, he let out a light chuckle. ID 10086. I'll be waiting smiling emoji. After sending the message, Shindong closed the chat channel and stopped paying attention. He had enough Molotov cocktails, 10 grenades, iron bear traps, and quite a lot of crossbow bolts too. Should he smear a little rust on them and give them a tetanus enchantment? After taking stock of his combat supplies, Chundong realized that he now had strength comparable to an entire team. At the very least, compared with the other team in the Villa district. As long as he was given enough time to prepare, soloing them would be no problem. Just as Chundong was about to close the system and rest, an announcement popped up on the trading platform. Extra. A gold-tier blueprint has appeared on the trading platform, Barrier Wall. This blueprint is the first gold-tier blueprint on this trading platform. Chundong's heart instantly burned with excitement. What perfect timing. Just when he was worrying about how to avoid a zombie invasion in the Villa district, this came along. If he had this barrier wall, then he wouldn't have to worry about that problem. Chundong immediately opened the trading platform, found that gold-tier blueprint, and muttered to himself, "This time, I must have it." The moment this gold-tier blueprint appeared, it directly shocked the entire chat channel of the apocalyptic world. They had never expected that less than a week after arriving in this apocalyptic world, someone had already started finding gold-tier supplies. Forget gold, even silver was rare. Usually, what people found was bronze tier. In the chat channel, quite a few people were green with envy. How is that possible? This must be another scam. I've never seen anyone lucky enough to hit the jackpot like this. How can this? I'm so jealous. ID 15424. Yeah, how could someone possibly get something this good? A barrier wall. If you found a shelter and directly activated the wall, wouldn't that be wonderful? What are zombies anyway? I just keep them outside. ID 345345. Holy crap. He put it up in the auction system. He's really going to sell it. But the price is so high. The starting bid is actually 1,000 essential living supplies, with each raise adding 50 supplies. Can't afford it. Amid the chorus of wails, quite a few groups had their eyes on this barrier wall blueprint. They had already found shelters long ago, so this blueprint had appeared at just the right time. In another villa district, a fierce man with a strong bare upper body was eyeing the blueprint on the trading platform, his face immediately lighting up with excitement. Barrier wall. I'm definitely getting it. Whoever tries to snatch it from me, Niu Ziqiang, I'll kill him. With that, the burly man put on his clothes, went downstairs to gather his companions, and began pooling supplies to fight for the auction. Inside a signal station, quite a few people surrounded a handsome man, quietly waiting for him to give the order. Young Master Zhou, with just one word from you, we'll immediately go gather resources and join the auction. Or, we could find that player. The man in black beside him asked in a low voice, while making a throat-slitting gesture with his right hand. The handsome man waved his hand and took a sip of red wine. No need. More than one force is definitely coveting this gold blueprint, and trying to intercept the seller is even more impossible. The system's protection in this regard is quite thorough. Besides, I, Zhou Shujian, am not the kind of person who will stop at nothing to achieve my goals. Old Ma, prepare the supplies and participate in the bidding. The man in black beside Zhou Shujian bowed respectfully and said, Yes, young Master Zhou. I'll go gather the brothers and start preparing supplies right away for the auction. I'll definitely do my utmost to help you obtain the gold blueprint, young Master Zhou. Zhou Shujian let out a cold laugh, looking extremely confident. After all, he had a huge stockpile of living supplies. He refused to believe anyone could be more formidable. Those commoners out there in the chaotic world were probably still worrying about where their next full meal would come from. Who could possibly outbid him? Jiang Kai, who was in the same villa district as Chundong, was also eyeing this gold-tier blueprint like a tiger watching its prey. Although the number of zombies in their villa district was now very small, he had already discovered signs of Chundong. If other players came as well, he had no confidence he could stop them. But if he had the barrier wall blueprint, then all those problems would cease to exist. Their team could resist any zombie horde that might appear later, and it could also block the coveting of many players. But having just gone through a major battle, they simply didn't have enough supplies to participate in the bidding. Jiang Kai was so frustrated that he helplessly pounded the marble coffee table. On a large tree out in the wilderness, Qian Boudoir, wearing glasses, was gloomily looking at the backpack that was already completely empty of daily necessities. There was only one golden grade blueprint left, Fortress Wall. He felt somewhat helpless. It wasn't that he wanted to sell this golden grade blueprint, but that he had no choice. I hope more people join the bidding and drive the price up so that I can survive a few more days. Qian Boudoir adjusted his glasses and waited for the auction to begin. Soon, the auction house on the trading platform opened. This was an auction held specifically for this golden grade blueprint. According to the trading platform's rules, only supplies that reached the golden grade were eligible to enter the auction house. And now, Fortress Wall was the only one of its kind. The various forces qualified to participate in the auction had already used all their strength to gather supplies, determined to secure the golden grade blueprint. After all, this item was far too important to them. In the chat channel, the golden grade wall blueprint had also attracted quite a few lone wolf survivors traveling alone. ID 46543. Who do you think will end up buying this golden grade blueprint? ID 254318. I don't know about elsewhere, but in our East District there's a team led by Niu Ziqiang, known as the #1 group in the East District. They just took over the Villa District this time, and I think they'll definitely join the bidding too, and have a very high chance of winning. ID 45538. Hey, speaking of big groups, I have to mention Zhou Shujian from our South District. Young Master Zhou is warm-hearted and righteous, and never harms players. The people he gathered are all stranded players without supplies. In just a few days, relying on young Master Zhou's strategy, they captured a signal station shelter in our district. They're insanely strong. I think young Master Zhou has a shot too. ID 451,846. I wonder if it's possible that ID 10086, who seems pretty capable, will join the bidding? ID 10010. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. No matter how many supplies 10086 has, it's absolutely impossible for him to put up that many supplies to join the bidding. After all, the others are all groups, while as far as we know he's just one person. Rich enough to rival a nation? Come on. If he wins the auction, I'll eat zombie meat on the spot. ID 10,000. Exactly. What kind of nobody is 10,086? At most, you can say he made a small fortune from quilts. And he still wants to take part in the auction for a golden grade blueprint? Ha, don't be ridiculous. He probably can't even scrape together the 100 portions of daily necessities required for entry. Just as everyone was buzzing with discussion, the auction began. Niu Ziqiang, Zhou Shujian, and others submitted the auction house deposit. Of course, there were also some unknown forces among them, including Chen Dong. When Chen Dong entered the auction house interface, he was astonished to find that there were actually more than a dozen buyers. Clearly, it was not as the chat channel had said, that those capable of producing auction supplies were exceedingly rare. Less than a week had passed since Doomsday Escape began, yet quite a few people had already started banding together for warmth. It was also possible that others likewise had enormous amounts of supplies. But Chen Dong quickly rejected the second guess. After all, the abundance of his supplies was thanks to the infinite system, so it was unlikely for others. Dear buyers of the auction house, welcome to the Doomsday Trading Auction House. We hope every player can bid on an item they desire. During a raise, you can click the raise panel on the interface to complete the raise. When the highest price is reached, the auctioneer will count to 3. If there is no further raise, then when the hammer falls, the auction is successful. All daily supplies owned by buyers participating in the auction will be converted into daily supply units. 1 500 milliliters bottle of drinking water and 1 250 g portion of food count as 1 unit of daily supplies. If food is insufficient, double the amount of drinking water can be used as a substitute combination. Likewise, if drinking water is insufficient, double the amount of food can be used as a substitute combination. Chen Dong quietly waited for the auction to start, and so did the others. Everyone was fully focused. First auction item, gold tier blueprint, barrier wall. Starting bid, 100 units of essential living supplies, with each raise in increments of 10 units of essential living supplies. This auction house will take 2% of the final sale price as commission. Buyer number 1 raises their paddle. The virtual auctioneer's mechanical voice announced. Buyer number 1 raises their paddle, 100 units of essential living supplies. Soon after, buyer number 3 raised their paddle. The virtual auctioneer then announced. Buyer number 3 raises their paddle, 110 units of essential living supplies. Chen Dong was buyer number 8 and had not bid yet. He had been watching the price of this gold tier blueprint soar all the way up, quickly breaking through the 200 unit mark for essential supplies. And judging by the momentum, it seemed poised to charge toward 300. Buyer number 9 raises their paddle, with the bid reaching 300 units of essential living supplies for the first time. The auctioneer announced. Buyer number 9 bids 300 units of essential living supplies. Instantly, the lone wolf survivors in the public channel erupted in an uproar one after another. Holy shit. 300 units of living supplies. That's 300 bottles of water and 300 portions of food, 150 gene of grain. How long could that keep someone alive? My god, 300 bottles of water and 150 gene of food. Damn, this guy must be some tycoon, right? I know this buyer number 9, it's Niu Ziqiang. Damn, the big shot is way too terrifying. Where did he find so many supplies? At the same time, buyer number 9 sent a message in the buyer's chat channel. I'm set on getting this gold tier blueprint. Me, Niu Ziqiang. Let's see who dares fight me for it. If you buy it today and I see you later, I'll tear your home down and hack you to pieces. Buyer number 5 raises their paddle, ignoring Niu Ziqiang's threat. 310 units of essential living supplies. The auctioneer's mechanical voice rang out. Player number 5 raises their paddle. 310 units of essential living supplies. Player number 5 also posted a message in the auction chat channel. Who is Niu Ziqiang? I have no interest in knowing. I'm also very interested in this gold tier blueprint. Zhou Shujian speaking. Sorry, I can't give it up. After buyer number 5 revealed his identity, the public channel erupted once again. Damn, it's actually young Master Zhou. Young Master Zhou is the most famous rich young heir in our area. No wonder he can bring out more than 300 units of living supplies. That's insane. Young Master Zhou, I want to be your lackey, as long as you give me a bite to eat. Screw your mother. You think just anyone can become young Master Zhou's lackey? Why don't you take a look at what kind of thing you are? Young Master Zhou, I'm strong. I can work for you. Zhou Shujian could naturally see the cheers and adulation in the public channel, and he thoroughly enjoyed that kind of admiration, the feeling of being envied by everyone. He was born deserving the best. No one could stand against him, and he also didn't believe anyone could surpass him, especially when it came to financial resources. Niu Ziqiang continued sending messages in the auction chat channel. You've got guts, Zhou Shujian, right? This grudge between us is settled. Zhou Shujian also replied directly. Since Mr. Niu insists on taking out this anger on Zhou, Zhou can hardly defend himself with words alone. But Zhou is no pushover either, so bring it on. As for the gold tier blueprint, it goes to the highest bidder. The two men, both having openly revealed their identities, refused to yield to each other in the auction chat channel. Chen Dong glanced at the two familiar names. These were the two rising figures just mentioned in the public chat channel. Like the other buyers, he couldn't be bothered to join the commotion and merely watched as the essential living supplies required for the gold tier blueprint kept soaring step by step. Perhaps because the price was too high, or perhaps because some people wanted to snipe it at the end. The final price of the barrier wall stalled at 350 units of essential living supplies. And the one who had raised the paddle was Zhou Shujian. As expected, yet still astonishing, their group was truly rich in supplies. The virtual auctioneer's prompt began to sound. Buyer number 5 bids 350 units of daily necessities. Are there any other buyers who want to continue bidding? Niu Ziqiang cursed angrily in the villa. His team could no longer afford to put up more essential supplies to participate in the auction. If this continued, it would very likely threaten their survival. The auctioneer prompted again. Since there are no other buyers raising the bid, then 350 units, first call. A faint sneer appeared at the corner of Zhou Shujian's mouth. Heh. He was the famous young Master Zhou. If there was something he wanted, what could possibly be beyond his reach? What Niu Ziqiang? What trash? None of it was worth mentioning. Zhou Shujian even felt like laughing out loud. He loved this feeling of looking down on everyone. He was the high and mighty overlord. But, at that very moment, the virtual auctioneer's voice rang out. Buyer no. 8 bids 400 units of supplies for daily living. It was Chen Dong. He made his move at the very last moment. What? Zhou Shujian froze. He hadn't expected someone to be waiting to swoop in at the last moment. And the moment he acted, he added 50 units of living supplies. One had to know that at a time like this, nearly all survivors treasured the supplies in their hands. These were all necessities for staying alive. Not only Zhou Shujian, but even everyone in the public channel was thrown into an uproar. Who was this buyer number 8? He actually made a move with 400 units of living supplies right off the bat. Damn, that's way too rich. 400 units of living supplies. How long could that keep me alive? This is a hidden tycoon. Does anyone know who this tycoon is? I want to be his woman. Heh, you little slut. What the hell are you? Are you prettier than me? You, wanting to be a tycoon's woman? Keep dreaming. I'm the one who should be the tycoon's woman. Buyer number 8, if you can see this, please DM me. I'm really good looking in person. Get lost, the one above. You really have the nerve to say you're pretty. Buyer number 8, look at me. I used to be an internet influencer with 500,000 followers. I can be your lover. I can do any position. 500,000 bot followers, more like. Zhou Shujian clenched his fists and stared wide-eyed at the screen full of heated discussion, his face turning vicious in an instant. Damn it. Who is this guy, daring to snatch something Zhou Shujian has his eye on? Is he crazy? Good, very good. I refuse to believe you really have that many supplies. When it comes to financial strength, I've never been afraid of anyone. Zhou Shujian bid directly. 450 units of living supplies. He refused to believe that this mysterious buyer number 8 could still afford to keep bidding. This move once again sent the entire public channel into an uproar. Holy crap! Holy crap! Holy crap! Young Master Zhou actually added another 50 units of supplies. This is way too rich. The owner of this blueprint must be over the moon by now. Player number 5 raises the paddle for 150 units of daily necessities. Chen Dong looked at the increased bid above without the slightest concern. He had nothing else, except plenty of bottled water. Other people felt agonized just scraping together 1 unit of supplies, but he didn't care in the slightest. Trying to compete with him was like seeing your father-in-law and not acknowledging him. You failed to recognize Mount Tai. Raise the bid. 500 units of living supplies. Player number 8 raises the paddle, 500 units of daily necessities. Everyone stared wide-eyed at the number on the screen, their breathing involuntarily growing much heavier. Although it was just a simple 3-digit number, the food represented behind those digits was enough to drive people mad. What? He's still chasing the price. Who exactly is this tycoon? How come I've never heard that we had someone like this around here? This is just too badass. Does he own a production plant or something? Could he be the manager of a factory? This is too badass. I bet when he was teleported here, he landed in a food factory or a drinking water plant. That's impossible. Things in this world are basically unusable. Collecting supplies can only be done by opening supply boxes. Moreover, everyone knows that the higher the level of the supply crate area, the more zombies there are. The more supplies there are, the harder they are to obtain. Zhou Shujian also widened his eyes, staring at the number on the screen in disbelief. This? How is this possible? 500 portions of supplies, and he took them out so easily. Who the hell is he? Damn it. No matter who you are, you can't snatch things from me, Zhou Shujian. I've set my sights on this, and no matter who you are, you can't take it from me. Zhou Shujian gnashed his teeth and shouted, raise the bid for me. 550 portions. As soon as he said this, a man in black beside him immediately panicked. Young Master Zhou, we're running low on daily supplies. If we keep raising the bid, even our most basic living needs will be in trouble. That's right, young Master Zhou, we can't keep bidding higher. Otherwise, we'll have to go out and fight those terrifying zombies for supplies, and we'd have to go to places with especially many zombies. It's not worth it. Who knows when we'll be able to gather enough materials for the golden blueprint. Young Master Zhou, please think it over. It doesn't matter if we go hungry, but you are of noble status. You absolutely must not go hungry. If we can't find enough supplies, all of us are done for. Zhou Shujian roared, get out of my way. I refuse to believe he still has that many supplies. No one can snatch things from me. Zhou Shujian. Buyer number 5 raises the paddle, 550 portions of daily necessities supplies. Chen Dong frowned. This Zhou Shujian really does have a solid family fortune to actually scrape together that many supplies. Looks like he's not someone to be trifled with. But well, that's all. Chen Dong raised the bid again without a care. Buyer number 8 raises the paddle, 600 portions of essential living supplies. What? 600 portions of living supplies. This is 2. This time, the entire channel fell silent. They were all deeply shocked. It's only been a few days, yet someone was able to gather that many supplies. Just who exactly is this person? And he raised the bid without the slightest hesitation. Even young Master Zhou had to hesitate for quite a while before raising the bid. In contrast, this buyer number 8 almost immediately followed young Master Zhou's increase. However, much young Master Zhou raised it. He raised it by the same amount, completely ignoring the minimum bid increment requirement of 10 portions of supplies. It was as if, in his eyes, these supplies were just pocket change. Zhou Shujian's eyes were about to split with rage, his gaze full of unwillingness. He didn't want to give up like this. But when he tried to raise the bid again, he was actually told that he didn't have enough supplies. Zhou Shujian stared fixedly at the screen before him. I'd like to see who you are. This time, Zhou Shujian did not follow Chen Dong's bid again. His living supplies were insufficient, so he truly lacked the means despite having the will. The virtual auctioneer began to announce, player number 8 bids 600 portions of essential living supplies. Will any other buyers bid? After a while, the auctioneer spoke again. If there are no other buyers raising their paddles, then please allow me to enter the countdown stage. 600 portions of essential living supplies, first call. 600 portions of essential living supplies, second call. 600 portions of essential living supplies, third call. Bang. As the auction hammer fell, the transaction was completed. Chen Dong became the owner of the golden grade blueprint, barrier wall.